Hey, have you ever wondered how the United States of America went from being a struggling frontier to the most powerful and prosperous nation in the history of the world, and how it happened in less than 150 years? What was the secret sauce that made it possible for millions of people to far exceed the economic capacity of their parents? How is it that many Americans, white, black, Hispanic, Asian, have become wealthy in one generation from abject poverty? Let me tell you, it was not socialism, not how it happened. And in fact, there are actually several different economic systems in play around the world and throughout history. Let me try to describe them. For example, you've heard of communism. Best way to describe it, communism is where you have two cows. The government takes both cows and gives you a pint of milk. Socialism is where you have two cows, and the government takes one of the cows and gives it to your neighbor. Fascism is where you have two cows, the government takes both cows and sells you the milk. Nazism, that's where you have two cows, the government takes both cows and shoots you. And then there's bureaucracy. That's where you have two cows, the government takes both cows, shoots one of the cows, milks the other cow, and pours the milk down the drain. And then capitalism. That's where you have two cows, you sell one and buy a bull. That's capitalism. And that's the economic system on which this country was built. Now, in my new book, 3 C's That Made America Great, written with co-author Steve Feasel, we explain those 3 C's, Christianity, capitalism, and the Constitution. Last week, I explained how Christianity was at the core of America's beginnings. Tonight, I want to tell you that without capitalism, America would never have evolved into a land of dreams. I'm personally an example of how our economic system creates opportunity and prosperity. I'm the first male in my entire family lineage to ever graduate from high school, much less go to college. Look, my dad lived better than his dad, who lived better than his, but none of them got much above poverty, and they worked really hard just to put food on the table, and my dad just enough to pay rent on the little rent house that I grew up in. My dad never expected to even meet a governor or a candidate for president, much less for his son to become both. Heck, my dad would have thought it was a big deal just to have a son who was on TV. Well, capitalism is based on the notion that if people can own land and choose their own means of a livelihood, there's no limit to what they can achieve. In the ancient feudal system of Europe, common folks couldn't own land. In fact, they were pretty much enslaved to farm the land for the owner who had some connections to the crown. A person pretty much was attached to another man's land and had very little say about anything. And one of the reasons for the formation of the United States was to make ownership of land possible for anyone, and with it, an ownership of one's own labor. Supply and demand would determine how much a person's work was worth to others. So find a job that had value to others, and there was no limit to what was possible. But great rewards certainly come with great risk, and even in America, there is no guarantee that one will become wealthy. But think about this. Poverty in the United States today still likely means that a person has a smartphone, indoor plumbing, electricity, and even a car, and still be in poverty. Capitalism doesn't assure you of wealth, but it assures you of the chance to work hard at what you choose and then to keep the fruits of your labor. The government of our country cannot force you to take on a job you don't want to do. In our book, we give a detailed explanation of what capitalism really is and how, without it, America would be just another third world country of poverty, disease, and hopelessness. I'm well aware that under any other system, I'd probably still be living in a little rent house in Hope, Arkansas, doing something I didn't really enjoy, like catching chickens, which I hated as a kid. Now, I might just be stuck where I started. So before we let the left, and especially the far left, drive this country into the ditch of socialism, we need to be clear what that means. So I hope you'll do what our audience is going to do. Read our book. I'm not going to give everybody one who's watching. I'm just giving the audience one here tonight. Why you should come to the show, right? But realize that America was not made great by politicians. Never was. It was made great by Christianity, capitalism, and the Constitution. Now, if you want more videos like that one, hit the subscribe button below and the notification bell right next to it. And if you leave a comment, positive or negative, I'll be sure that my dog Toby sees it and responds to you in kind.